How's it going, Philip? It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Likewise, Orlando. Yeah, no, it's going really well, thank you. So it's yeah.
I think I'm the first person in Paraguay who ever speak with a member of Radiohead.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Wow, that's very long overdue.
This is your history.
Wow. Okay, well, I'm delighted. This is momentous for me. So thank you.
Thank you for this interview, for this great moment. Well, Philip, read a lot about you in the last days. You started play drums for the social prestige and the love for music, inspired by Joy Division, The Clash, and the Velvet Underground. That's with no social prestige. That's kind of interesting.
Kind of thinking back to when I was at school. I was a bit of a non-event academically and sporting-wise at school, and actually music and being in a band, it was something that I felt I could do and do quite well. And people would say, "Oh, yeah, that's all right." And then I guess when we started with Radiohead, I was been about 18 at that point. So we're all at school together, and then that's when I decided to focus more on my drumming. But I think for me, kind of having that basis in songwriting from the outset, that's been my interest, and that's how my interest in drumming has grown. Is kind of how drums can serve the song, if you like, and I think we've all learned a lot about songwriting through our time in Radiohead, and then so that when I got to the point where I felt, I wanted to kind of pursue my own songwriting as well and see where that could take me.
When I hear your drum style, especially from Kid A to this day, or maybe OK Computer to this day, I think this guy was good in math in school.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. I find that if I start to try and actually over-analyze what's happening within the music, that's where I start to become unstuck. If I very much play by ear and respond to what I'm hearing, and when what I feel are my best ideas, that's when that comes. So not very good at maths.
And I remember in your induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, in your speech you said, "We may not the greatest musicians." That's true, or you just being humbled?
I think what I really like about what we do as musicians is the fact that, and because we've all learned to play our instruments in the context of each other, I think we've all got very, very particular musical voices, and then seeing how that kind of all interacts as well. That's where I think you could take any of us and put us in a different context, and you feel, well, that sounds like that. We've been able to develop very distinctive musical voices. And hopefully over the years, we've improved as musicians as well. I think we can do a convincing turn now.
Well, speaking of your last album, the new album, upcoming album, Strange Dance, that's the name of one of the songs. That's very interesting, especially that song, because it reminds me a lot of the work that Peter Gabriel did in Martin Scorsese's The Last Temptation of Christ. I don't know if...
Oh, lovely.
Probably, right?
No, I mean, that's... it's a very flattering comparison. I did kind of... I've not thought of it in that way before. I'll have to go back and listen to it. Oh my God, have I just done the complete rip-off of it? But I think, with music that I've been making, it was being very informed by the processes that I went through writing soundtrack scores, and so kind of pulling in all those different kind of orchestral elements. So, yeah, I mean, there's something about the soundscape of Strange Dance that does feel quite filmic, feels quite widescreen. So, yeah, I'm going to have to go and have a listen to that now.
Well, Philip, it's been 25 years since OK Computer, and that record is so present to this day. What very futuristic about the speech, the concept, and today, the computer, the technology, alienation, the computers, now the smartphones, right? So, how do you feel about that after all these years, and the people still, discovering and debating about it?
It would still be able to connect with people in that way, quarter of a century later. I don't often go back and listen to what we've done, records from the past, but kind of when we did the reissue from OK Computer 4 years ago now, and that was fascinating because then you have to immerse yourself back in all the different session tapes and all the different aspects of the record from that time, and then to go back and there's something about kind of listening to session outtakes and rehearsal tapes and everything like that. It really kind of puts you back in that headspace, and you really value what you had at the time. I think it makes you appreciate it in a different way, and you kind of discover stuff that was, overlooked at the time. So kind of when we reissued, when we did the OK Not OK project, going back and finding the songs, additional tracks that we had, some songs like Lift and Man of War and I Promise, and they kind of didn't feel as though they were working in the context of those sessions, but then kind of revisiting them and listening to what we'd done on them, just thinking actually they were there. And so it's lovely coming back and discovering those kind of elements to it.
Well, speaking of technology and things like that, you start to use it, the drum boxes in Kid A, when nobody was kind of cool with that in those days, and rock music especially. But you raise it to be even a better musician, a better drummer. So that's very refreshing. If we speak about back in 2000, now it's like inevitable.
Yeah, I mean, all of these things, but the time they feel very challenging. As I say, each step of the way, I feel as a band, but me personally as well, you've kind of I had to learn. It's not that you come in with all your musical chops. You need to learn the musical chops to realize the ideas that you want to do at that time. And so kind of working with kind of sequence with drum sequences, drum machines, whatever. It's that was, as I say, it was very challenging at the time, but it shaped my drumming going on from there. It's kind of there are inflections that you could pick up from those parts, and then going out to try and find a way of playing these albums, which had been very much studio albums, and then thinking how do we do that as a band, make it sound, do justice to the recordings, but at the same time as kind of allowing those musical voices that you have for when you play live, allowing them to come through as well. And so, yeah, all of these different elements, they're challenges, but they keep you moving forward as a musician.
And speaking of being one step forward, in Rainbows, was released in your digital in your website with no Spotify, no nothing about that in those days. So it kind of changed the whole game in the industry at the same time back in 2007. Also,
Yeah, it kind of that took us by surprise at the time. You know, we were just experimenting with how we could get our own music out there, and it seemed to capture people's imaginations at the time. So it's not like some great kind of master plan in there. It was just us responding to what felt interesting and exciting to us. So yeah, my word, and that's quite a while ago now.
well, Phil, I know you support a lot of institutions that work with the mental health situation, and you participated recently the whole touring and music industry. And with COVID-19, the whole situation, the economic situation, how do you perceive the whole, damage that created, especially in English musicians? And how is today the situation?
I think, given the experience that we've all been through over the past 3 years with the pandemic and with kind of other kind of social and economic shifts, I think it's been a very hard time for musicians. Generally, musicians and anybody involved, technical crew, road crew. I mean, there were a couple of years where everybody was looking at a situation where kind of you questioning whether you'd be able to continue doing it. So yeah, I think it's been a very tough time for everybody, and there have been very particular challenges for people involved in music. But with that as well, I think it's a very resourceful kind of industry. It's a lot of self-starting artists who are used to trying to find a way to get their music out there and to kind of make all these musical connections as well, and still see, I mean, that's still very much there, driving everything along. But I think it's been interesting where you see artists coming out and just saying, actually, it's important that kind of acknowledge what you have to do to protect your own emotional well-being in it all. I think for anybody who wants any kind of longevity and in music, I think that has to be very much at the heart of how you approach what you do. I think you have to be very aware of your own limits and be able to express that to people around you, and find the people who kind of work well with that.
Thank you very much for this interview, Bill.
Thank you, Orlando. It's been great. It's been really lovely talking to you. And I still can't quite get over the fact that it's the first interview that we've had in Paraguay.
You had to come here far away with Radiohead or your solo. You had to come here.
I'd love to. Yes, please.